Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a two-game college football slate for you that starts at 8 o'clock. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? I'm also going to get the college bets here real quick. So I have FIU over New Mexico State, and I have at plus 6.5 points. I would also say that the money line for New Mexico State is viable as well, but I think this is going to be a very close game. I also like the under on this game as it's very should be a lower scoring game. Both these teams are going to run the ball more than they're going to pass. FIU does pass the ball a little bit more, which does give them a little bit of an edge. So I could see them kind of sneaking off and managing to win this game. But it's somewhat of a going to be a slogfest of a game there. As for the Jacksonville State MTSU game, I like MTSU to win this game straight up. Uh, though I'm not that bothered by the minus 3.5. If you can find it under 3, though, I would definitely take that. And then I also like the under at 52, though I do think Middle Tennessee is going to throw the ball a lot. I do think Jacksonville State is going to try to control the clock by running it quite a bit, as they're one of the lower scoring uh, teams on that front. So overall, I think it's a pretty good slate to bet on, but I do like these lines quite a bit here. Let's go ahead and get into our slate here, though, for DraftKings now on the fantasy perspective. So my top quarterback is going to be Vattiato from MTSU. He's going to throw the ball the most. He's got more than 70 total throws, more than any other quarterback on the slate. And he's not in a timeshare like Jacksonville State's quarterback tends to be sometimes. So that is a advantage here. He's probably my favorite option, though he is also the weakest when it comes to quarterback rating, and he's third in rushes on this of the four quarterbacks that you could choose from today. That said, he's got some good upside and has touchdown potential. I think Middle Tennessee's going to throw the ball a lot in this game, and if they can get the lead, then that'll definitely make it tough on Jacksonville State. As for Jenkins here for FIU, he's probably going to throw the second amount most. He does only have 5 touchdowns so far this season, but he's definitely capable of a good game here. And this is a good matchup where both teams are probably going to run the ball more. He's the least likely running quarterback on the slate, but he does have some capability today from the pass. And one of his wide receivers are my favorite, and Mitchell. I am going to talk about the other two quarterbacks here. Pavia for New Mexico State. He's going to be one of the most touchdown friendly quarterbacks, though he does divvy up the ball a lot to his wide receivers, so it's going to be hard to pinpoint any wide receiver on his team to really utilize, as they all have pretty low numbers. But overall, he is capable today, and he does draw some potential with the touchdown upside. But again, they're not going to throw the ball a ton. And then Smothers is the lowest throwing quarterback on the slate. He's probably going to throw less total passes than anybody else on this one. He has not had a ton of passes this season, only 74, in fact, so far this season. And he does have a backup quarterback that sometimes gets some throws, and so do keep that in mind. Uh, I do think he'll likely take most of the snaps this game, but he does have a little bit of risk there. He's also the only quarterback on the slate that hasn't thrown an interception yet this season. He also has the most touchdowns with 5 of the 4 quarterbacks, so he is a good contrarian option from that perspective. I do think Vadiato is the best option, and then I would pick between Jenkins or Smothers when it comes to who I like the best next. Um, Looking at running backs here, Jackson is by far the best option on the slate. He's going to get a ton of rush attempts compared to all the other running backs. He's had 5 really solid games. He has 505 yards on the season with 3 touchdowns. He has been pretty solid in the air as well, as he's got 10 catches, though he hadn't had a bunch of yards. None of the running backs do. So he has some nice upside here, and he's just a great core play. The pricing really doesn't matter because there's not a whole lot of ways you can even use all your salary hardly, so you don't have to worry too much about the prices today. Then we'll look at Thomas for New Mexico State. He's my second favorite guy at $5,500. He's the only other running back that's not in a timeshare. Um, He's had 43 rushes on the season with several touchdowns. He's also first on his team in receptions with 11, and he's got 113 yards through the air and a touchdown. So he's definitely capable of a good fantasy point game. He's been a little bit up and down from that perspective, but he's capable here, and he's got a good matchup. So I like his upside. Now, we could also choose some MTSU running backs here and Creedle and Peasant. Now, Peasant is getting more looks recently than Creedle has, but Creedle has more upside through the air. But they are in a timeshare, so you do want to keep that in consideration. You could use both of them, and that can definitely pay off on this particular slate. But they are a little bit riskier as they have been somewhat inconsistent because they are in a timeshare. But like I said, Creedle does get more pass attempts in the air, which gives him a little bit of a bonus upside. But I think both guys have some viability on the slate. Um, Peasant should get more touches in this game though. Then we're going to look at the wide receivers here. Now, this is where it's going to get a little crazy. Um, if the best team to stack from wide receiver is MTSU, obviously, I like Metcalf. Metcalf is the leader in total receptions on the season here with 27. He's also got 235 yards, which is second on the slate in yards. Actually, I'm sorry, third on the slate in yards. He has some really good big time games, but he hasn't had perfect games though. He had a really tough start to the season with the games against Alabama and Missouri. The slate has evened out a little bit, and he's doing better from there. He does have tendency to have ups and downs, but he is capable and has the most receptions on the season. So I like his upside that from that perspective. He also has one touchdown on the year. Um, and then for FIU, if they're going to stay in the game, he's going to have to perform well here. As for Metcalf for Middle Tennessee State, he's leading the slate on touches with 27. As sorry, what am I doing? I was thinking about Mitchell. Let me start the wide receivers over. I'm sorry, guys. So we're going to start with Mitchell here for Middle Tennessee State. He's got the most receptions and third in yards on the slate. He has a lot of upside here. He's been somewhat up and down, but he had a tough start to the season with the two matchups against two SEC teams. But I look for him to have a really solid game here, and he has 10 fantasy points or higher easily in this game. So I do think he draws a great option, great metrics here for this one. As for Chris Mitchell for FIU, he leads the slate in total yards with 459. He's had some really good games. Um, he's probably the most consistent wide receiver. He's also the most expensive, so that is for sure. But he's definitely a great option on the slate. He also has 4 touchdowns. I really like his upside. New Mexico State has not done well against the pass, and so he has some great utility on this one from that perspective. Then we're going to look at some other MTSU options here. Now, Willis, Olson, and Tate Jr. all have some utility for this slate. Uh, I do think that they're probably the safest ways to stack a couple of these guys as they have the most upside on the slate. But you could also do some contrarian stacks with New Mexico State, who have Brady, Parker, Hudson, and Bellamy. Now, Parker is kind of a boomer bust play, but Bellamy, Hudson, and Brady are all in play on the slate. And then for FIU, obviously Mitchell is my favorite option. Bracy has some utility here as well, but he is a little bit risky. And then Patterson has some low end upside, though he hasn't got a touchdown on the season yet. And then for Jacksonville State, if you were to go with them, I think Lane, Petaway, and Carter are the most likely options. The Carter's kind of high risk, high reward. Lane and Petaway both have some utility here, but you kind of want to pair your wide receivers with whichever quarterback or quarterbacks you choose to use. Obviously, for on DraftKings, we can use S-Flex, where we can throw in a second quarterback at that position, and I definitely think that's a viable strategy today, as we have 2 game slate, so you can throw a quarterback at quarterback and S-Flex. That's probably one of the best ways to make quality lineups today. Obviously, you go contrarian and not do that and have another running back or even another wide receiver. But I think the safest way today is the quarterback duel. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.